What?
No! Is she dating him?
Hannah.
Hey. Look.
Hello.
I'm fine.
What are you doing here?
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another shared news update. Today we are going to be playing the hypothetical because you know we love to do that here at Shared News. This time between Bachelor alums Hannah Brown and Peter Weber. But before we do that, make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring that bell so you never miss any of our future videos. We are trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the summer. We can do it. We just need your help. I'm your host, mchugh, joined by Alison Van Dam and Gianna Gravalese. You guys, it is hump day. How are we feeling?
We're good, I think. I think it's always hard. This is like our first real week back after the 4th of July holiday. So it feels like every day is so long. But so far, so good. Gianna, how's your week going?
Yeah, I mean, not only is it right after 4th of July, but it's also, you know, coming after the premiere of the double Bachelorette season. So I'm still recovering. We will be covering all things double Bachelorette all week till the next episode and beyond. So it's been a busy week, but I've been enjoying it.
I mean, yeah, we need to buckle up because the Bachelor content is just going to be coming tenfold. Now, I was going to start this off saying we all know how Peter Weber's season ended, but Gianna, I learned that you didn't watch Peter's season. So we're gonna have to give a little rundown.
He has probably arguably the most famous season. So I feel like I've watched it, but I really didn't sit down and watch it, but I was following. But give you a little refresher.
Got it. Okay, so let's give a little refresher then for you. So first he chose Hannah Sluss at the end of his season. We all know that didn't work out. They ended up breaking up on camera. Then he tried it with Madison Prewett at the After the Final Rose, which of course that didn't work out. Then he dated Kelley Flanagan, who was part of his season, which worked out for a little bit. But of course, third time was not the charm. We also found out during his season that him and Hannah Brown, or I should say during his and Hannah Sluss's relationship, that Hannah Brown was still a topic of conversation. We know that Hannah Brown had showed up during Peter's season. He asked her to stay, but she didn't want to do that. I don't blame her. So what we're kind of breaking down here today is if things would have ended up differently for Pilot Pete if Hannah and him had gotten together. So of course we got to go back to where it all started, which was Hannah's season. It was down to Peter Weber, Jedd, Wyatt, and Tyler Cameron as her final three. Obviously picking Jedd was not the right move, but was it a mistake not bringing Peter Weber to the final two? So Alison, do you think it should have been down to Peter Weber and Tyler?
I mean, I think it's hard to say because we know how terribly Jedd treated her afterwards and that he was kind of just this sketchy dude who was there for his music career. But yes, even in rewatching her season, I've rewatched it at least once. You can tell from the get-go, she was all in on Jedd. You know, they had that whole balcony moment where he brought the guitar and he re-sang her like, I'll be your Mr. Right, and like that whole thing. So he gave her these moments to really fall for him, and he made it seem like he was going out of his way to impress her, to be the person she needed to lean on. So it was no surprise to me that Jedd was in the final three, in the final two, was the final rose pick. I don't know. I go back and forth with the Tyler of it all because obviously we all loved him. He's so handsome. He had some really great zingers during her season of, you know, rallying the guys, making sure that she was the priority. He had some key phrases, but other than that, we didn't dive too deep into Tyler. And so it's like, was she ever evaluating Tyler as a life partner, or was it just kind of like, oh wow, he's so hot, I would love to take him to fantasy suites type of energy? I think it would have been really interesting if we would have had Jedd and Peter as her final two. Yes. Peter and Tyler, I don't know who she would have picked in that scenario because it was just so clearly always Jedd for her.
Interesting. Now, I was thinking, like, with Peter, I mean, I felt like they had a really genuine connection the entire time. So I'm wondering, like, what made her go after him so much? Obviously, Gianna, you've heard about the windmill situation, the three times in the windmill. So was their connection based off of that intimacy?
That's a great question. I feel like, we have to think about our own lives too, right? I feel like when you connect with someone on that intimate level, you do have a deeper level of feelings and even love for that other person, right? It makes something about your connection with that person go to the next level. And they did it 3 times. Like that is a lot of times to be doing that in the windmill. So I think, that I don't think that's what made their connection what it was, right? I do think it was a key factor. But there was just something about her and Peter, right? Like they were like that couple
Mm-hmm.
that just always kept finding each other and then going away and then finding each other and going away type of thing. And I feel like, again, we all have that one person in our lives that like unfortunately happens with. So yeah, again, I don't think that the 3 times in the windmill was the only thing that made them connect. But I think it helped them to connect on such a deep level, ultimately leading to their sticky situation after the fact.
Yeah, and bringing it up, like you said, they kind of were like back and forth in each other's lives. We obviously saw Hannah then showed back up into Peter's season, which I think was really kind of surprising for a lot of people just because he had chosen Hannah Sluss and then he had Madison Prewett. And then all of a sudden here's Hannah Brown. And also Hannah Brown had tried to get with Tyler C. After the final rose, she like shouted out him. So like, I feel like the two of them are kind of messy and like all of the people that they're reaching out to. What do you think the reasoning, Alison, was that she went back on to Peter Weber's season? Was she just holding on to like, wow, shoot, I like really made a big mistake with Jedd? Like, is he her like really her third choice since she went after Tyler first? Like, I'm so confused with the thought process behind that.
Yeah, it's so hard to know. And I wonder if honestly, because everything blew up with Jedd and she was just forced to like look back, she started seeing things in maybe more like rose-colored glasses of if she had gone for Peter, if she had gone for Tyler, because we saw it end so terribly with Jedd. We saw her enter in Peter's season at the beginning. They had that whole little scene right at the beginning of the season in that room with the pool table, and he asked her to stay.
This is so insane. What would you say if I asked you to like, come be part of the house? I mean,
At that point, I'm like, if she didn't want to join the house, was she hoping that he would just end his season there? Like, I'm confused why she appeared there. But then we also know since she released her book, God Bless This Mess, that's when the confession of, oh, before he got with Kelley, after everything with his season kind of blew up between Hannah Ann and Maddie, they met back up at Hannah G and Dylan's engagement party and ended up hooking up that night. And she said that that was really clarifying because they'd obviously had such a chemistry in the windmill and done it so many times, and that was so great. And she did say that when they hooked up again at the engagement party, it was just not the same. So maybe she needed that experience, and maybe she needed to try and almost see him or date him in the real world without the cameras, without the extravagant, travel and dates and all this stuff, to see, okay, maybe I was making it better in hindsight, or maybe I was, projecting all of my hopes onto him when in reality, we were never that great of a match anyways.
That's a good thought process. I love that, especially because whenever you make a decision and it doesn't go right, you always think like, well, shoot, if I had gone this direction or gone this direction, would it have been different? Obviously, things have worked out for Hannah. We know that. But I'm curious if because you sort of brought this up, Alison, like, was Hannah expecting Peter to end his season for her when she showed up? Gianna, do you think that the producers would have even allowed that to happen? Like Peter pull a Claire?
So my first answer is no, but half of me is also thinking Peter's season was before Claire's season and they let Claire do it. So if they let her do it, and let's say Peter wanted to do it at that moment, I feel like they would have let it happen, especially because it was Hannah Brown. Like it was a Bachelor alum. So it's like that would have like absolutely raised ratings. I feel like it would have been all over social media. We would have still been talking about it here on Shared News today. I feel like that would have been a power move if they were to let that happen. But also, I feel like they really wanted to see how his season would play out with everybody. And they just probably wanted Hannah Brown for like that little hint of like, oh, is he going to leave? Is he going to leave? And make viewers hang on a little bit longer. And that's probably why they didn't let him leave. They just wanted him to abide by the typical Bachelor rules and carry on as normal.
Let's go a little deeper in this hypothetical idea. Like, if Peter did leave, who would have taken his place? Because I felt like with Claire, they had full runner-ups. They had so many options to replace Claire that it was like really easy for them. But who was their choices other than Peter? Like, who would have filled those shoes?
I mean, Tyler Cameron, people have been throwing Tyler Cameron's name around for the longest time. I think at this point, he's established himself so much as a model, as outside. A presence himself. You know, the second he dated Gigi Hadid, it was clear he had left Bachelor Nation and in a different league. Yes. But maybe because it was right after Hannah's season, if he didn't know kind of what his status was in the entertainment world, I think maybe there would have been a higher chance of him saying yes to it, coming in, you know, knight in shining armor to save the season. That's who came to mind for me. But Gianna, what about you?
I was literally going to say the same exact thing because, again, we've heard so many debates of like, would he have been the Bachelor? Like, how many, all of that type of thing. But like you said, I feel like that wasn't his destiny, Tyler Cameron. Like, if he were another hypothetical, I guess, if he were to have been the Bachelor, I don't think that he would have the career that he has now. So many things, you know, being on that show as the lead opened so many doors for opportunities, but also opened so many doors for things to happen, like negative energy. I mean, we saw what just happened with Clayton. And now even on this new Bachelorette season, they haven't even let go of kind of, you know, talking about Clayton in a negative light. So I love what Tyler Cameron's doing now. And if he were the Bachelor, I don't know how well that would have played out for him, depending on what kind of edit he got. So I'm kind of glad that he sort of escaped when he could have.
You don't think they would have brought in Luke P?
He could have just told all of these women that they could not have had any sort of chemistry or history with any other man because they should have known that he was going to enter their lives from the Lord, and that's that. Obviously. And he would have let so many women go based on their former rosters, and he would have prayed for them.
Fantasy suites would have been canceled.
Correct.
No fantasy suites, Bible study only.
Okay, I think a good choice too would have been Mike Johnson. I loved him from Hannah Brown's season, and I could be wrong, but I think that he was like a contender or somebody that they might have been talking to. I'm not sure exactly why he wasn't chosen, but I think he would have been a good choice. Okay, so let's get back to Hannah and Peter now. I'm curious if they had stayed together. Do you think that Peter would have had stayed together, I should say, either Hannah chose Peter or Peter, like, you know, left the season and stuck with her, if he would have had such a bad rep? I feel like when people talk about Pilot Pete, he has like this negative cloud looming over him because of all of his just relationship debacles and how messy he was. Like, none of that have happened if he stuck with Hannah Brown?
I think it would have probably been very similar because Hannah said when they finally hooked up in the real world, it just like wasn't it. And they kind of realized they were done. So if anything, I feel like his reputation would be the same because if he would have just left for Hannah the 1 or 2, you know, days into his season and it wouldn't have worked out, and then I could see him just completely regretting his decision, maybe trying to date some of the girls. Like I can see it just ending up very similarly. I think it would have been different altogether if he would have been Hannah Brown's last, you know, final rose pick. And if they would have tried and then maybe it didn't work out, he would have had a reputation, but he's still going to have the reputation of, you know, someone who's just bouncing from thing to thing and woman to woman if he would have left for Hannah, is my opinion.
I loved your facials during that, Gianna. What are you thinking?
The gears in my head were turning. So I'm going to go ahead say, you know, if Hannah had been like, yep, I'll leave with you right now and we'll be in a relationship, I feel like they would have worked out in a way. And then obviously there wouldn't have been any opportunity for him to, you know, have his season end the way it ended. And then all the relationships and other women he have been with have happened. Now I can't speak English because I'm thinking so hard, but I feel like, no, he wouldn't have had a bad reputation. And I'm thinking about, like you said, Alison, when him and Hannah hooked up at the engagement party or the night of, I feel like the vibes were probably off because it's like, again, they were going back and forth, back and forth. There were so many outside factors. They were probably also trying to be secretive. They were at an engagement party. They probably were like, people at the party were probably like, oh, like, where did Hannah and Peter go? Like, they were probably so stressed out about that. And maybe, you don't know if they were like drunk or not. Like maybe there was like alcohol involved and, doing the thing wasn't that good because of that. Like there's just so many factors that could have made it not it, as she was saying.
Sure.
So I feel like if they would have just, dropped everything and been together, life would have just been easy for the both of them. So I'm going to say, no, he wouldn't have had a bad reputation if Hannah had chosen to stay.
I love that take. Obviously, I think that they still would have ended up where they are right now because that's just how life works. We know things have worked out for Hannah because she just moved in with her boyfriend. They've got a dog together. And boyfriend is not in the Bachelor world. He is doing his own thing. However, Peter, our man, he is still single. He is keeping a more low profile these days. So I'm curious, where is love going to come for him? Is it in the Bachelor world? Let's answer that first. Bachelor world or is it outside, Alison?
I have a feeling that it doesn't matter for him if it's Bachelor or outside world, but he would want someone with some sort of status. Because I feel like we've all seen that submission for like Dumois where they were like a Bachelor alum went into a club or a bar and left because no one recognized him. Like, and everyone was like thinking that was Peter because it was in New York City. Like, I think. And it's probably hard too, like having been the Bachelor, like during your season, you're on everyone's TV, you're talked about, and now not so much. I know, he stays somewhat up to date with Bachelor Nation as a whole, but I think he might be missing maybe some of the clout. So it wouldn't be surprising to me if it was an influencer or, an actor or model or someone who had a little bit of a name for themselves to kind of be that power couple.
Hey, what do you think, Gianna?
I'm going to echo that, but I'm also going to say, obviously, the only thing that would work out logistically and realistically for him, it would be someone from the outside world, a normal person, not of social media status, not an influencer, nothing. And it's like interesting because you have to think about even big celebrities, right? Like a lot of celebrities end up getting divorced from their other celebrity partner because it's just so much to handle and they both have so much going on. And then you hear of these other celebrities that are with a quote unquote normal person and the odds of it working out are much higher. So looking at it from that type of standpoint, I'm going to say that he needs to be with someone not in Bachelor Nation, not influencer, not known anywhere, normal, wifey type of material.
And I think you guys are missing the most important part. They have to get Mom Barbara's approval or that relationship is not making it. All right, well, that is that on that, you guys. Thanks so much for playing the hypothetical with us. Let us know in your comments what you think, who Peter should end up with. Who do you think he'll end up with? Was it a mistake not to leave with Hannah Brown? We want to know all of your thoughts, so go ahead and drop that down below in the comments. Make sure you like this video, ring that bell, hit the subscribe button, all the things, because we're trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the summer. I'm your host, Blakely McHugh, with Alison Van Dam and Gianna Gravalese. You can see our social media handles on the screen. Give us a follow, say hello, and we will see you next time.